Hello, Louise. Here we
Hi,
are
Sarah.
for another talking deeper into The Mistress's Daughter by A.M. Holmes.
Gets better and better,
It
actually.
does. We stopped last week right before Norman, her birth father, invited her to meet his wife, who
Yeah, she was
wasn't super welcoming to her. No surprise.
immediately. I mean, why
Yeah.
would he even do that? The whole thing is bothersome to me. Um,
Um,
I like when she has
Well, I
this
think,
whole, yeah.
maybe he was trying somewhat. I don't know, but they go to the country club, um,
I want to
which I like
see,
what she says.
yeah.
Norman lives in this world, fated but presumed aristocracy. He's not upper class. He's overextended.
I love it. And then she says, I arrive early auditioning, right?
Yes.
I feel that myself constantly if I'm doing anything around this whole thing, like auditioning. Like am I and she's so secure in her other part of her life. That's what's so interesting about adoptees. And then she's like, oh, I'm being led away. And maybe she really is the queen. Is there like the way he's acting about meeting his wife, right? Maybe she's the
Yes.
queen. It's like, oh, and she's anything but. I mean, it's not it's not loving or nice. It's like she's just not at all welcome in their lives immediately.
Except that she does meet her brother. One of her brothers is
Mm-hmm.
just through Norman, but that's the only one she's allowed
Right.
to know or meet, Norman Jr. Um,
The eldest son.
and then they moved to Florida, which I think she, kind of feels as an abandonment maybe to some extent. But she also then writes to him to tell him of her disappointment that he didn't keep his promise about introducing her.
Mm-hmm.
And as it turns out, one of the kids opened the letter, so that was all exposed to his family. Uh,
Yeah.
anyway, so then they kind of drift away from each other. But the biggest piece of what we read is Ellen dies.
Yeah. Ellen dies and she hadn't been in touch with her, which we kind of find out later why. But all of a sudden she just gets news that she dies. This woman she never wants to see. And then deep down, then she dies. You kind of do want to see her. It's this constant, one of our guests described it as like you can't you don't love her, but you don't not love her. I don't know. You want to be in, but you're not in. It's like, how does she just die? And she's young. She dies suddenly in the middle of winter. What does it say
I don't know
here?
how young she was. AM's already in her 30s.
I was thinking maybe early 70s or something. But
Um,
I felt like it was sort of sudden. I mean, I guess,
well, no, she was still in her 50s, I guess. Uh,
yeah,
yeah.
young, right? I mean, I felt, but she had had obviously some health issues, but how was this part? There
Well,
was a
she
part I
did
was looking
have
for.
health issues
Yeah.
because she called her to say I've got a procedure, and AM's like, I know I should offer to go, but it just like she couldn't do it. And then Ellen cancels the procedure,
Mm-hmm.
and then she's on the phone with her mom. I thought this was really
Yeah. I was
just
hoping you'd say.
uh she was on the phone with her adopted mom, who then gets a call on call waiting, puts AM on hold, and comes back and says Ellen's dead. And I think that, it was just like a shocking, and she says, I'm on the phone talking to my mother when she gets a call telling her that my mother is dead. It's a little too much like a Gertrude Stein line.
Mm-hmm.
I, for just 1 second to talk about how humorous her writing is. Ellen had a brother, and she says that her AM's the woman that delivered the news about the deaths, says that Ellen's brother was notified of her death and left Ellen's body in the Atlantic City morgue for at least a day while he was at the U.S. Open in Forest Hills. And later, AM's friend says he wasn't playing in it, was he? like you couldn't leave, your
No.
sister died.
You have to finish watching the matches and then go collect her.
Everybody, that whole era of that generation of like my parents' generation, and like they were just like just totally, didn't, I don't know, just interesting people. Yeah, so then AM goes to the funeral and there's only a few people there, and
it was sad, the funeral. There was something she said about it that I thought of last night telling you, where she says that I'm trying to find the exact line, but where here it is. I'm thinking Ellen is in there. This is when she's looking in her coffin, at her coffin. Ellen is in there in that coffin, paying attention. She knows she's dead. She knows how awful it is. I remember her irreverent bursts of emotion, how she would say it was whatever it was she was thinking. It's depressing as hell, but I'm glad I'm there, if only to be a witness to this woman's life, the end of this woman's life, to make note of it.
Yeah, I highlighted that too.
I thought it was neat. It's like she had to be a witness to her own mother. Like it's like no one cared about Ellen.
I know.
It made me sad.
Well, I think, the her damage was so vast. And because then as she goes into like the downward, and that she buys a map and drives looking at all the addresses from the letters that Ellen had sent her. And it was like a downward progression, of her life just
going downhill,
going down, yeah. And so then there's another thing. She said, what is so sad is that this is a woman who I had to protect myself from while she was alive. And now she is dead. And I'm doing chin-ups outside her kitchen window, scrambling for clues.
Yeah.
I had a similar thing with Tilda where I always kept this wall up with her, my birth mother, kept a wall up. And then now, I'm like, wait a minute, why didn't I get more? Why didn't I there wasn't the time to get that information.
There wasn't.
It was then and now, and
and boy, what you know now, Sarah, what you would have in those conversations would be so different. Yeah, it's like, and she goes to see the last place that she lived, and it had been she gets in there and it had been kind of picked through and ransacked by the people. And it was just trash left, and she clearly had a little bit of like a little child thing, collecting the dolls, and it just made me sad. I just thought this poor woman living in this lost life, sort of like her past.
And as AM is going through this, she's finding, she found in a pocket of her pants, she found a wad of money, and she's like, I do that with my money. And her mom is always like, how can you do that? Like, who treats money that way? And so she said it creeps her out, this indescribable subtlety of biology. In her pockets, I find the same things I find in mine.
Yeah. She goes home. Well, I won't skip ahead, but she goes,
because I had a couple things highlighted. Yeah. But she said there's a tendency to romanticize the missing person. To think about her is to allow her in. I hear her voice in my head. Unreliable though she was, she is the only one who could explain to me what happened. And then after the going through the house, she meets friends, really good friends who were there for her, and takes them to dinner. And she says, in the end, Ellen pays for the meal. I use the wad of money from her back pants, and whatever is left, I leave as the tip.
Well, and it freaks her out so much what you said about how is she a grown woman also stuffing stuff in her pockets? It could have been her pockets, that she goes home and cleans her house.
Yes.
She's like, I can't be like this.
I don't want to end up like this. Yeah.
I don't want to end up like this.
I don't think it's more like, I don't think it was, I can't be like this. I can, but not to become that. Not to end up like that. I had similar thoughts after Tilda, like when I went to say goodbye to her, and is this going to be my life alone? you know, in a small apartment and, but,
It's sad. I wish I knew you better then, actually, to, you know,
I think
like
I'd only known
we
you
didn't,
for
not
bit.
that long. We didn't talk about this stuff. Like, I wish
No,
I went with you, and like, it's a big thing. I
you
like
might have
that her
gotten bird flu from Becker. He got bird flu on that trip.
damn it, Becker. I'd
I
still be
think it was
mad at it.
bird flu, whatever it was around 2009. Good thing you didn't go.
Good thing I didn't go.
The last thing I just want to, that I highlighted, and I think it's a good way to
Mhm.
end this is, I struggle with how to narrate the confusion, the profound loss of a piece of myself that I never knew, a piece that I pushed away because it was so frightening. The autobiography of the unknown. I think that will have to be a quote for Instagram.
I think so. And she has some good ones in this. I mean, it made me think a little bit about my biological mom, Linda. Like, I romanticize her a little bit. You know, I know more and more about her, but you romanticize what you don't know, right? And so
Mhm.
it's like you just always have to live with that because you're not going to know the full thing. She'll never know. You'll never know everything about Tilda. I'll never know
Luckily,
everything
I
about.
have some sisters who
Yes.
I can talk to now about this stuff. But
Mm-hmm. It's a lot.
oh,
Well, this has been another great chapter. I'm like, it goes
yeah,
on to book 2 now.
I
So I'm
know. So
curious.
that's
I
see
haven't
what
read ahead.
happens.
Have you read ahead?
I have not read ahead.
I
No.
haven't either.
Just to so that I can, well,
Be
partially
fresh.
because I have not read ahead. So we'll see you in a few minutes for a great guest
We sure
upcoming.
will. Okay.
Yeah.
See you soon.
See you
Bye-bye.
soon.